What's up, everyone? This is Bill. Today I'm going to do a little video for you guys. There's not a whole lot of information other than like forums and stuff like that, but today I'm going to show you guys how to get rid of this little charcoal canister. This is for the pressurization in the fuel tank. Okay, so today we're going to remove that. I'm going to show you how to bypass it, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it anyway. It's pretty simple. If you're running this guy, so this is from Vinny's Custom Shop, this is the Costo 34mm throttle body, and it's been velocity stack ported. Okay, so if you're running that guy, it does not use that nipple where you see that yellow fuel hose, right, or that yellow breather hose right there. The Costo 34 does not use that. So your choices are, you can fold that up and just crimp it in the middle and pinch it off, or you can remove all this garbage that you don't need and just leave that sensor right there. Okay, so that's what you're going to do, so let's get started.
Perfect.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is disconnect this hose. Yours is going to be black if you haven't changed the hoses out. And that hose comes from the other side of the tank here. So up top. Okay, so what we're going to do is, all you got to do is pull this hose off. And I do not have any more longer hoses like this, so what we're going to do is we're just going to put a chunk right here in the middle. Okay, you can go with all one hose. It really doesn't matter. It's simply a breather. So we're going to disconnect that hose. We're going to disconnect this hose. And we're going to disconnect this hose here. This hose here. We're going to remove this hose down here. We're going to undo this sensor. Okay, we're going to unplug it. We're going to take it off. We're going to get this guy out of here, which just lifts up off of this rubber. Okay. So I'll get all that off of there and we'll let you see what it looks like. I'm just going to let the camera roll while I take it off there in a time lapse. So let's get it. What you'll need is a Phillips head screwdriver for these two screws, some pliers to pinch these little clamps that they use. Okay, so we got it removed. It took us about maybe 10 minutes, if that. The way it sits in there is like this. Okay, so you can see here the writing will be right side up, purge tank. Okay, and it sits on two prongs back there. So make sure you lift that back one up as well. It's a very tight squeeze. You will have to, your ECU is just mounted on a piece of rubber right here, so you will have to remove the ECU. You don't have to unplug it. Just slide it off of here, lift this up, slide it back after undoing all the hoses. Okay, so now our sensor, we're going to remount the sensor right here. We're going to plug it back in, and we're going to put some fittings on the end so it's plugged up, so the sensor won't be doing anything. It's just there so we don't get any engine codes. I've heard people say you don't get engine codes, but I've also heard people say that you do. Okay, so we're going to plug up the hoses. I've heard people say that you do if you don't put the sensor back on. Okay, the way I'm going to run it, I'm going to put the sensor back in and just leave the sensor there. Then here's the hose coming off the tank. Here's the hose that exits down here at the kickstand. I'm going to leave that. We're just going to splice another hose into this. I'll show you how we're going to do that. Okay, so here's the sensor. Here's what it looks like. It mounts against the bike with the plug-in downward. Okay, we're just going to cover up those nipples. And what I'm going to run is just use some little pieces of brass tubing, clean them up so there's nothing in there. Use them as a nipple. Okay, it'll work perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. Best scenario would be to run one solid piece of hose. I don't have that here, and it's not really that big of a deal. Or else I would be running one solid piece of hose, but this is close enough. This is going to work just fine. Okay, this is a 1/4 inch brass tubing. Okay, I just cut it and cleaned it up. Okay. Yeah, obviously it's going to work just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's literally all we're doing now is making the tank so it has a breather. And it's just so the tank doesn't get pressurized. Say when you just fill the tank, or when you're getting down to the bottom of the tank needs to breathe. Okay, so it doesn't create a pocket inside or create any kind of vacuum. Okay, just needs to breathe. That's what we're going to let it do. And if there's any overflow spillage, it's going to exit the bottom of the bike. Okay, you would not want something like a one-way check valve or anything like that on there. Best case scenario would be to leave it open. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We came up with. We butted our hoses together that come from the other side of the tank. This one comes from this side of the tank, and on one of those small hoses that you took off of the canister, you'll have a nipple that can go to a smaller hose, or you could use a full-size hose of this size. I just use that nipple, put it back in there, and we're running this, and both hoses. Obviously the bike's dirty as hell, but both hoses come out right there. Just zip tied them up together. Okay, so they're not going to interfere anything. So if any fuel comes out, we got fuel that can come out. We got air for breathing. Okay, we got both hoses. So what we'll do is we'll just zip tie them together up here, and we'll tie them back so they're out of the way. We'll put the ECU back on. Now the sensor is going to go back on right here. This is your sensor plug. Okay, and I did find a solution for plugging the holes on the sensor. I'll show you that. Okay, so here's the sensor. What I found, just went over to Park Rose Hardware, and they happen to have these little corks. Okay, just a little cork. And so instead of stuffing it in the nipple so we don't damage the sensor, so I'd hate for one of those to get stuck way in there. Obviously we could dig it out with a screwdriver or something, or a screw if we had to, but we just cut one of those hoses that we're not going to be using, stuffed the cork in the end of it, and I had to really stuff it in there so I know it's sealed up nice and tight. You can't blow through the end of the hose at all. Okay, so there you go, sealed up. Okay, that'll work. So now we put this back on where its stock location was and plug it back in. So let's do that now. Okay, so we'll grab our 2 screws that we had. Phillips screwdriver. It's going to sit like this. So we'll plug it back in. Okay, sensor's back up. And now we'll zip tie these wires back up like we had them before. Okay, there we got those zip tied up out of the way. This little plug that goes right here is for my LED kit. Okay, so make sure I zip that so it doesn't go anywhere. Pardon the noise. I guess there's a car being towed. This two wires together here are the two silicone hoses. Okay. Just so they don't move around on us. Okay, there we go. We got it back together. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so we got everything all back together. We have now successfully removed the canister, and we are ready for the COSO throttle body. Okay, so this is what you should end up with. The sensor back on here, sensor plugged in, both ends plugged up, however you got to do it, whatever it takes. Okay, it doesn't have to be pretty. Remember, this is going to be under plastic. You should have two fuel hoses. Okay, you can run a two-way and run them right into each other and run them on down, or you could run them down separately like I've done. You can see they come out down here. Like I said, the bike is stealthy as hell, but that's all right. We'll clean her up. So I'm just running them right down there. You can see they come together right here. And we have zip tied them together so they're not going to move around. Okay, and you do have this little ring back here. I'm going to squeeze it back in, but that where it holds that hose is it's just a real thin piece of metal. You can bend it outward to fit whatever you need to fit back there. Okay, and then just bend it back in. All it's going to do is keep it away from the chain. Okay, ECU's back in its place. We're just going to leave those brackets. We're not going to mess with them. Okay, and everything's zipped up nice and tight. So now we shall fire her up. Make sure we don't get any check engine lights. Okay, we'll let her warm up for a minute. I usually let it warm up and obviously I already had the bike warming up. We didn't go to sit here on video, but it starts right up. Okay, like I said, no check engine light. You are going to get a little stronger smell of fuel for sure, especially like this is running on 110 race fuel, so you can definitely smell that in the background. But remember that charcoal canister is to filter all that out. Okay, everything seems to be working perfect. We're now ready for that COSO throttle body to go on here. We're just waiting for the intake to come in the mail, the intake tube. We got a Dro Sports, their custom carbon fiber handmade huge intake is coming. That's what we're going to put on here. So what I have done here, just in case you guys were wondering, this is a stock throttle body. It's a Chimera throttle body. So Chimera takes the stock throttle body, the board out. This one is bored out to 28 millimeters. Okay, so it's been gone through. I think when you order them from Chimera, they're 26 millimeter. So this one's a 28 millimeter throttle body, and then the intake manifold, also port matches it, and then the head is a custom made head from Vinny. This is a Finbro big valve head, and this hole up here is bored out to match the COSO throttle body, and then I'm running an aluminum plate that he made me that matches up with my throttle body. Okay, so we're going to switch to the COSO, get rid of the aluminum plate. We're going to be utilizing all the space that he has bored this out to with a huge intake on it. So we should pick up quite a bit, because right now we're running a DHM velocity stack and the Chimera stainless steel intake. And you can see the velocity stack down there with that stainless steel filter. Okay, so anyways, that's my video. If you guys are wanting to remove that charcoal canister, it's very simple to do. It's an easy modification. That goes to the throttle body. You're going to have to do something, okay, because it doesn't have a spot to plug that in. In the best case, you can do, like I said, you can just plug up that hose down there that goes to it, leave it at that. But there's no need for that canister to be on there anymore, so you can remove it completely like I have done. Okay, so thanks for watching. Hope you guys, hope this information helps somebody out. Make sure if you got any comments or questions, leave it down in the comment section, or you can look me up on social media. All the information is in the description below the video to get a hold of me. Okay, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button. You guys have a good day. Peace.